Hello, Sonic movie fans, and welcome to episode 119 of the Sonic Movie Show, the only show that's about Sonic news, and Sonic movie news. My name is Ethan, and with me here to re-review this movie for the fourth time is Devin.
Can't believe Crazy Carl was right the entire time.
Yeah, that is a John Marsden quote. Am I saying his name right?
It's James.
Yep, I'm like, I think I just said the Red Dead guy again. James Marsden, a.k.a.
Cyclops.
Tom, a.k.a. Sonic movie character. Any case, yes, today's episode is our, third anniversary of this movie? Second anniversary of this movie?
Second. I thought it was third
Second.
too, but since we had that weird pandemic that fucked us all up with time, it's technical because it came out 2020.
Yeah.
And then like a month later, the world's ended. And yeah, so that'd be 2 years. We're in 2022, I know. But it's because we saw it two times in 2020. I think that's why we feel like it's third or fourth.
Yeah. This is our 45th time watching this movie. We're going to do this every year until we die. What day is Valentine's Day? Because that's the actual anniversary. Monday.
Monday, yeah.
So, yes. The Monday after this episode posted is when you will actually get the actual second anniversary of this movie. And it's wild to remember that this movie came out right before the pandemic was actually noticed.
Yeah, and for me, because I saw a lot of movies in 2019. I was going 3 times a month, 4 times a month, right? We went to a couple movies for fun before we were even doing this show, and then we had this big idea that, hey, now that the Sonic movie is kind of done, we'll go see movies in theaters. We'll do one a month, and it'll be great. And then it wasn't even a full month later because I think it was the 13th or whatever when we watched Bloodshot, which was the last. We didn't even see that in theaters, but we were supposed to see that.
We
were waiting it out. We're oh, maybe we'll be quarantined for a week and we can go and see it. And then we had to rent that.
Nobody. You'll be quarantining for years and years to come. This is the start of year 3 of the quarantine, of the pandemic, of the COVID. So, but yes, in any case, and it's even more evident as to say, for today's episode, we watched the movie again, the Sonic movie, but we watched it with the director's commentary on, which was recorded before the movie came out in theaters, ergo, even before what we're talking about with the pandemic.
Yeah, definitely.
So it is kind of funny.
But cool blast from the past. From back, it was 2019 or whatever when they were maybe early 2020 when they recorded that. It's just man, it just felt it was just a different vibe. And I'm we'll never get that vibe again, for movies and stuff. No matter, I've gone to the movies since, getting boosted and whatnot. And it's still just not, it just doesn't feel the same anymore because I think it's just that, either there's less people there or just the energy level's different or whatever it is. Just, I don't know. It's just crazy, but
everything about it is different. But
yeah, but it's funny though, listening to
this
was
this will always be that movie. Yeah. Well, the best part is they didn't have a clue that the movie was going to be as successful as it was.
Yeah, that's true.
And I say that in a good way. They're talking about at the end, spoilers. The sequel, and we want to do so much. Gotta watch this movie. Watching this years later while we're 2 months away from
the sequel.
Yeah,
in a way, I'm kind of glad they waited this long to get the commentary, but they were acknowledged that people probably won't listen to this until. I think Ben Schwartz literally mentions. They're well, you'll know whether or not there's a sequel or if we make more.
Yeah, because
by the time you listen to
this, this came out with the Blu-ray and stuff, so it would have been half a year out from the movie in theaters, right? So you would already know, at the very least, if it got picked up again. But we should stress, so we watched the director's commentary, which was Jeff Fowler and Ben Schwartz, a voice of Sonic the Hedgehog in the movie.
Jeff Fowler's the director for folks at home.
Yes, yep. Director and lead for the movie. I'm going to say this, and this might shock you or maybe be yeah, that makes sense. This is the first director's commentary I've ever watched or listened to. I don't really of the movies I would do a director's commentary for, I A, don't own them with that director's commentary, and B, like, I've always watched them with people, and it's never like, yeah, I'm gonna actually not watch the movie and listen to the people talk about it. It's just never crossed my mind as something to do. And going through it now, I'm like, oh yeah, this is just a podcast. that's what this is essentially. You know what I mean?
Podcast
it hits that register, which makes me say to you, Devin, maybe next year for the 3rd anniversary of this movie, we should record a watch along of this movie.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, let's do something like that for next year.
Or keep in the back pocket in case we really have no other ideas and we're just running on fumes.
Oh, I mean, we've done episodes of this show that's like very clearly we don't know what to do, and for some reason we decided to not skip the week because of it. I feel like we can use that a little bit more strategically, but at the very least, next year might be a good idea. But yeah, director's commentary. This is my first one. Have you ever done this before?
So my memory is a little hazy, but I feel like it's maybe the 3rd or 4th one. I haven't done too many. The most recent one I did was not this past Christmas, but the Christmas before. Bryn and I watched Krampus with the director's commentary. Had Michael Dowdery, the director, and then I believe he had one of the script writers with him as well. No actors from it, but and the reason we did that one year is because every Christmas Eve we've watched Krampus since 2015 when we first saw it in theaters, and we were like, let's change it up a little bit. Let's watch the commentary because we've always had it. They recently just dropped a 4K kind of like official edition kind of thing, special edition of it, and I just got that for this Christmas, but we didn't have time to watch it this year. But yeah, so I think that's the one I can really remember. I've tried the Lord of the Rings ones back in the day because we had the extended editions with the special features and all that.
Yeah, you know what? I have all those too. I guess it just never occurred to me to like.
But maybe
if I'm gonna watch the movie, I want to watch the movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I now that like doing the Krampus one and this one though, I will say that like this might be good to have on like in the background when I'm doing other stuff. But like I feel like it's like you said, it's like a podcast, and I find this stuff very interesting, especially for someone like me who I really do like hearing the stories about how movies are made and like how sometimes the craziest shit happens and like it gets into a film and you don't realize like the smallest things required like this amount of work or vice versa.
Right.
Like I know on Netflix, there was like this How They Were Made, I think it was called, but it's about like blockbuster movies and how they were made. And we watched one on like Jurassic Park, and like I found that so fascinating because like that movie was supposed to be all practical effects, and it took like a team of the visual effects department like basically saying no to their manager and being like, no, we're gonna make digital dinosaurs, even though they were told not to and told them to work on something else. They said no. They like crunched a bunch, but they did it, and they wind up sneaking it into Steven Spielberg's like mailbox or some shit on VHS or whatever it was, and he wound up watching it and like asked them to do like something about that. But like I find that those kind of stories like crazy, and there's a couple in here that I was like, oh, that's cool. Man, I wish we knew this information when we recorded like the, you know, like honestly, like we were just talking about how this feels like a blast from the past, and like it just takes me back to when we first started this show, and like getting hyped for the movie. And like how we watched like Where the Wild Things Are and whatnot, and at the time it was goofy, but like
Jesus.
But like he talks about how like working on like those kind of movies, like he mentions that, and I'm like, hey, I have context for that. Like, doesn't feel totally
fair, yes,
totally out of nowhere. Talks about going.
We did the homework.
Yeah, we did the homework, and he talks about it, and so I felt rewarded in that way, being like, oh, but there's a lot of stuff in there that I was like, oh, that's cool, and I'm like, you know, I think it's gonna be a good episode because I feel like there's at least one thing I can be like, were you surprised by this? I was surprised by this.
Yeah, I enjoyed this. You know, this being my first one, it dawned on me like, oh yeah, the focus of it ain't the movie anymore. If anything, that's just background to what you're actually paying attention to. So I don't have too much about the movie itself to really say, as we really kind of, I guess, just talking about the commentary this time. But I guess just to quickly reiterate, I guess to summarize 3 years of this movie for me, because the lead up to the movie and my opinions of it this far, I thought it was pretty good when it came out. I liked it a bit more when I could recognize more of the Easter eggs and whatnot. It made it feel like they cared a bit more than just, we have popular IP, let's make live action version movie.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? I believe a year later, so last year, my opinion was more so about like, man, this movie is going to feel very quaint when we get the second one, and it feels very small and sometimes almost a little boring. Now, flash forward again a year later, and I'm like, this movie just feels like everything just goes so quickly. And I say that in a good way. It feels like I can just throw it on the background and stuff happens and we're good to go. I always enjoyed this movie, obviously, just, individual parts of it. And I'm more excited, obviously, about the second movie than rewatching this movie again. Or I have a feeling like the second movie will feel a lot more of like, yeah, I want to rewatch that than this one, regardless of how many times I've seen either, right? So that's me for that movie. I will say for watching it again this time, I definitely, like I said, got more of a sense of, I don't want to say like it feels classic. It's only 2 fucking years old. But, parts of it just feel like, oh yeah, I like that. It's hitting a little bit differently now for me, in good ways.
It's starting to like a fine wine. It's starting to age. You're smelling it. Every year you go down the basement to smell that wine that is
you're gonna
as you get older,
you're gonna say I told
better.
you so.
Yeah,
you're gonna say I told you so. But like, I enjoyed Jim Carrey more this time around. And I, for the first time ever, don't dislike the song that plays in the credits.
Yes, let's go. Come to the good side. I was like, because like the menu like starts with it, and I'm like, yes. I wish it went on
I'm
longer.
Hearing
though.
this 7 times
it goes
as
on
I'm
for
like
30
trying to
seconds and it
figure out
repeats.
this.
But
Yeah,
speed me up. Yeah.
Oh my god. So why don't you tell me your opinions of the movie itself?
Yeah, so like
summarize these years for me too.
Yeah, so like when we first, so like going in, I think we were both kind of like we once the like redesign happened, I think we were cautiously optimistic, if I remember correctly. We still thought it was going to be a stinker because Sonic just seems to always let us down, and video game movies, just historically speaking, it feels like they're stinky more than they are good most of the time. Like, it feels like you're doing a coin flip every time you go to see a video game movie of whether or not you're going to even enjoy it, and then if it's going to actually be good. As we've been, if you listen to the show for the last even just year, you can see all the different video game movies we've covered, and there's been a lot of stinkers in there. There's been ones that were bad but we enjoyed, and there's ones that are like just fine. Like there hasn't been like too many heavy hitters really. But like I remember like we had like a Cinderella story moment when we come back from the first time being like, hey, you know what? That movie was solid. If anything, like compared to other video game movies, it's pretty good, And we're like, hey, they did a Sonic movie and it wasn't dog shit. Like, and it was the opposite of dog shit, I would say. Like, it was like, hey, it's like PB&J. It was freaking good, always good. And yeah, every time we've watched it, it feels like we just watched it in a weird way because time's flying and we're getting old.
Yeah.
But there is this like classic feel. I'm starting to feel it already. Where I think it's like I said, it's the nostalgia. What we were just talking about at the beginning of the show. It's the nostalgia for that like late 2019 energy of like, yeah, 2020 is gonna be cool. The decade's gonna be great. Granted, we haven't got that yet, but like it has that like of another time, and I think that adds to it in a weird way. And it's like no other movie's gonna get that because for us that was. I think I saw one other movie after Sonic, but like for me, I only remember Sonic as being like one of the last movies we saw at AMC. And this was the last one me and you saw together, like in theaters before the pandemic hit. So it's like I feel that classic vibe, but I think parts of it has to do with the real world, and also I think the movie's is good and it's aging well. And obviously, I will say this, coming into this year, watching it this year, and like even with the commentary and whatnot, and hearing all the praise that they give to Jim Carrey, and how also they give a lot of. We'll talk about this too. One thing I found surprising was like, because we've always talked about like, is Jim Carrey just doing this for a paycheck? He still is funny and whatnot, but is he just doing his thing? It sounds like he was a lot more involved than what I initially thought, which is cool to hear. And I think it's the year of Jim Carrey, and people don't realize it because he's going to be in this Sonic movie. He's going to be in Sonic movie 2. He was just on The Weeknd's new album. He's like the narrator for the album.
What?
Yeah, and he has a fucking verse. He doesn't sing, but like he has like a poem at the end, and it's like, and it fucking slaps with the music, and I'm like, Jim fucking Carrey. So like, there's that, and then he just tweeted out today that they're doing a what's it called, Cable Guy 2. He did the movie Cable Guy in the late 90s. It's like a weird dark comedy, if I remember correctly. But he's doing that, so I'm like, this guy, he's coming to play this year.
Maybe he'll have his Keanu Reeves moment, and he'll be in a John Wick type of movie.
Dude, that'd be awesome. I'd support it.
He just murders people.
But no, like for me, it's like overall, yeah, I just feel like this is, in a way, I'm so glad we're doing this because it's building up for this sequel. And I feel like without this podcast, maybe we wouldn't be caring as much about the Sonic movie. But like it's like a journey. I feel like it's just another chapter in this journey that we're doing together, and it's just like, this is cool. And I feel like the commentary just brings a different perspective. It's almost like a chapter in a book that kind of like does a flashback, but it's like from a different person's perspective, and it only adds to like the lore and shit. And I love that.
Yeah, because we gave up talking about our Sonic lore. I will say this too. I said this last time, and I begrudgingly said it because I didn't really want to say it on the podcast, but I gotta be open and honest. Last year I said, I think I'm done watching this movie. I don't like rewatching movies. Now I'm at the point now where I'm like, yeah, I can keep doing this every year. I think I'll be fine. I can handle it.
Like if it was stinky, it'd be real bad. It'd be tough. It'd be a tough pill to swallow.
That almost would make it fun to see a bad movie, obviously. Can't be movie. But in any case, if we keep throwing spins at it like what we did for today, I feel like I can definitely keep doing this and not have it feel like an obligation or being dull. All right, so let's talk about this whole deal. Do you want to go through it, the movie and what they talked about? Do you have certain points you want to talk about? I'm going to let you lead this episode.
Okay. Well, for me, I feel like we should start with, because I was kind of already talking about it, like something that surprised you, something that you weren't expecting them to say specifically, and then like after that we could talk about like what are some things maybe we wish they talked about more or didn't talk about, because there's one big thing I feel like they just failed to mention, and I don't know if it's a pride thing or a contract thing or they literally were not thinking about it because movies are tough to make and you're probably just doing 1 week at a time. I don't know, but yeah, tell me what one thing that you found surprising, and if there's multiple things, we can go back and forth.
Sure. So I know before the movie came out, we went through Jeff Fowler's kind of filmography and his work. So we knew that he worked at Blur, but I had no idea he worked specifically at Blur when I didn't realize Blur did, certain games. I obviously don't know everything that they've ever worked on. But he himself worked on Shadow the Hedgehog CGI cinematics, and not only did that give him a bit of Sonic cred for one of the worst Sonic games ever, but that does mean now Sonic fans cannot be upset with this man. He literally gifted them their fucking profile pictures on Tumblr and MySpace of Shadow the Hedgehog with a gun. I can see it right now. I don't know how many times I've seen Sonic fans have that Shadow the Hedgehog render from from the opening cutscene of him walking up a cliff to seeing San Francisco or whatever the fucking city is, and then cocking his machine gun. I don't understand what it was, and looking miserable. And they screenshot that. That's my profile picture. Like, yeah, this man made that. So that made me be like, oh damn, okay, for sure. But I will say the other thing, like, I know what you're gonna talk about. That was my other thing. So
okay. Yeah, so like for me was the amount of, like I said, I mentioned it briefly, that like the amount of like love and whatnot they give to Jim Carrey, and like they were like, he was awesome, he was a professional, and he like cared about details and whatnot, and it was just kind of like good to hear, because like I've always liked Jim Carrey. I grew up watching his movies and whatnot, so like there's like that kind of like personal part for me. And which also makes this whole like Sonic movie journey just a little bit better for me, because it's like, oh, well, a guy I pretty much grew up watching is like in this, and he plays a cool villain, right? But like the amount of details they mentioned, like how he was the one that came up with the idea to have buttons on his glove, like details like
Right.
that like you wouldn't have guessed. Or like, that was written in the script, or that was a costume designer choice, and he just ad-libbed to it. He's like, no, he's like, we should add buttons to the thing so he can do his thing at his best abilities. You know what I mean? And they also gave a lot of credit to James Marsden too. But for me, that was like one of the big surprising things, was just them giving a lot of love to Jim, and just in ways I wasn't expecting. Like, I feel like they were going to talk about him and how good he was, but like,
Right.
the details they were talking about and how like he worked with everybody and how he did such a great job. And also, so much of his impact was felt that Ben Schwartz did 2 Ace Ventura, or Jim Carrey rather, references with Sonic, and I didn't realize it until
Right.
after the commentary. I'm like, holy shit, that is from Ace Ventura, and I didn't like realize it because it's been so long since I've seen those movies. But yeah, I just felt that was interesting. There's a couple little small ones. I'm not gonna list all of them, but the biggest one for me, like the biggest one that I also want to point out, is how Ben Schwartz almost wasn't the voice of Sonic.
Yeah, I mean, that story, was like, oh wow, so he just happenstance. But I feel like so much of this industry is just happenstance.
Yeah.
People bumping into each other and be like, it'd be great if we worked together. Oh, let's put it in our pocket. And then 30 years later, we're making a Star Wars, or
Well, this
something
was more
like
of
that.
Like, because Tim Miller, the producer, like Ben Schwartz was there for something else that day. Like they were in the same lobby when Fowler was there, and then like they just had.
He's like, yeah, it could have been Deadpool, but I'm Sonic instead.
Yeah. I just find that so like we could have had a different voice. We don't know what would have happened, but like I'm glad that like that happened. That they happened to go to the meeting with Tim, and Tim just mentioned, hey, why don't you why don't you, Ben, why don't you try to be Sonic? And like just I found that super amazing. That's like, those are the stories I like to hear for real, is like the happenstance stuff where it's like, hey, The Rock was fucking getting his car washed across the street when I handed in the script for Jurassic Park 8, and you know what? I just walked up to him, hey, do you want to be in the next Jurassic Park? He said, yeah. So like,
Wow, very bold of you.
yeah. But yeah, you want
I will say not
Go ahead.
not enough love was given to James Marsden that I feel like he deserved as much as Jim Carrey did. But I mean, at the same time, like, they're having to talk about certain scenes that they're happening, so like some of that stuff just gets cut off. There was a part, and I forgot what it was, I should have written down, where Jeff Fowler was talking about something interesting, and it was about to go to the next part of that thing he was talking about when Ben Schwartz cut him off to talk about something that was happening right then and there, and then they never go back to what Jeff was saying later, blah, blah, blah. So that's the way of it is, but they talked enough about James Marsden, but I wanted more.
You want more?
Personally. Because like some stuff where they're like, so how did you get this guy? And it's like, well, the answer probably is he auditioned and we picked him. And that was that. So they just don't want to actually go through that, because not everyone has that chance meeting that Ben happened to have, right?
Yeah. I mean, I did find it interesting too, or I wouldn't have guessed that like one of the first scenes they shot was with James Marsden doing the very
That was the first day.
First day is where they had him doing the cop stuff. Like what he was doing, like little bits and whatnot. And he was just like doing random dialogue and whatnot. So I'm like, that's cool. Also, while we're on the topic of like certain scenes being filmed and whatnot, so the whole beginning part, we always had the question about the baby Sonic too. Remember, we always have like, was that added because of Baby Yoda and whatnot? They still didn't make it fully clear, but it definitely seemed to be more of a coincidence rather than a, hey, that Baby Yoda guy is pretty popular, let's do that.
Yeah, I think that would have been too late. That they wouldn't have had the time to do that because of the Baby Yoda. They definitely marketed it at that point because of the Baby Yoda. But I definitely got the impression, because I think they said it was a late addition
the beginning
to add that in.
Yeah.
And then making it like the framing for the beginning, but having that halfway through the movie thing to kind of show some action, and then saying, All right, that's how this all started. How did I get here in this instance? We're probably wondering how I got here. And then you rewind the record or whatever. They said that they had, tried to put the whole baby Sonic origin thing in different parts of the movie, but it makes sense to just almost get it out of the way in the beginning, so it doesn't like bring anyone down later on.
Yeah,
when they're like,
was supposed
Sonic
to start
saving
with
this
that,
person.
Which I think I'm glad they did add that like beginning part, because man, could you imagine if it started with that being like, I feel like the start of the movie would have been a different tone. You know what I mean? Like if it was just like Sonic is a baby, oh, and his mother died, and that's our origin story. Which
but
it is.
To be honest,
it is his origin story, but like just like it's the difference of how you tell it, and they decide not to make that the first thing that happens, and I'm so glad they did.
Right, because it's not framed by that anymore.
Yeah,
it's not framed by that, because usually, when
it's not as melodramatic.
Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me, but like I often reflect back on the beginning of a movie when I'm at the end of it and see like, oh, how are we here? Like this kind of the story. And when your tone is framed with a more positive Sonic being cocky while he's doing the old classic Jason or being chased by Robotnik, you kind of look back to that instead of looking back at like Sonic was a baby and then the owl got shot and it was so sad. You know what I mean? Like, granted that happened right after, but still like the tone just set up framing for the movie for me in a different way. They also, so for me, because I think we had suspected that entire sequence was created after the reanimation. Because what the hell did that baby look like before? What did the echidnas look like before? You know what I mean? It just seemed so like, man, I want that cut. And now here is my ultimate question. I've asked this several times. Do you think we will ever get the original cut of this movie with that bad animation?
They deleted that shit. That's in a virtual. If at best, it's in a virtual recycle bin on someone's MacBook Pro or whatever the fuck right now. Like at best, in my opinion, I think they delete that shit. That's long gone. But I don't know, because here, a little thing I've noticed on Twitter recently was people were not being nitpicky or in a negative way, but just like we're doing side-by-sides of the Game Awards Sonic Movie 2 trailer and the
recent TV spot,
and they're like, oh, the shading's so much different. And it's like, yeah, because color grading is a post-production process that happens in all movies. They do that where they're like, hey, we need to fine-tune some stuff, or we want to make it as consistent as possible throughout. We have a color palette we're trying to hit, and I tweeted that when people saw it, I tweeted that with our account or whatever. None of them, like, I was just trying to be like, hey, I think, like, don't read into this too much. This is basic. And probably when they made that trailer, they just didn't have everything color graded properly. But they're like, hey,
right? They had a date.
Yeah, no one's. People are just hyped to see something. So like they're gonna give them something. So with all that said, when we saw that first trailer and the movie was supposed to come out in September or whatever the fuck it was at that time, because the trailer dropped in March, April, whatever. At the time, yeah, I don't know how far along were they.
Yeah, that's fair. They obviously could have just not been done. I would still love to see a cut of the movie though with that, obviously.
Well, the thing is, the trailers are like obviously I'm sure people have re-uploaded them on their own like personal accounts, but like the original trailers were taken down, remember?
Yeah. They don't want that to reflect, the movie anymore, especially since the movie is much better without it. How great would it have been if they like accidentally forgot a frame and it flashed for one frame to that creepy thing.
Yeah. Well, but let's talk about that more, because I think that is the biggest surprise. I didn't want to make that my first one, but like I am genuinely surprised that they didn't even hint at it, mention it at all during this about the redesign happening, because it wasn't like they filmed this obviously before, or else I feel like Ben Schwartz be like you know what I mean, like just there's I don't know, it's just I find it interesting that they didn't. Maybe it's like I said, I don't know if it's a pride thing. I don't know if it's it really didn't cross their mind because movies take a long time to make, and they're just, this is towards red carpet time. They're thinking about finishing this project. We've both, me and you, have worked on projects together or separately where we're like, we just want to get to the finish line, even though we're really proud of
Right.
this work or happy what we're doing.
I want it over.
I also want it
though.
over with to a certain extent. Yeah. So like they could be that, you know, that could have been in that situation, so they're not even thinking about it. I don't know, but
Do you know what I think?
what do you think?
I think because this was being recorded 3 weeks before the movie actually hit theaters, they did not know the success that the movie was going to have. It is a lot easier to laugh at your previous failures if you're a giant hit and everyone, you're beloved, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If the movie had come out and bombed and it had gotten bad reviews, and granted, it had mixed reviews regardless, but if it came out and bombed, they might not be as like, yeah, look at when we were bad. Oh, maybe we still are, just differently, you know what I mean? And then plus two, like, again, because the movie hadn't been out yet, I feel like a lot of them is just wanting to hype up and just be proud of what is in the movie in the first place. Obviously, we know at the point we're at right now, they're willing to make fun of what it was initially, you know what I mean, in that very first trailer. Ben Schwartz, before even showing the trailer for Sonic Movie 2 at the Game Awards, you know, referenced that and said, thank you for telling us that it looked bad. You know what I mean? And in a good way. But I think that's all it really was.
No, that's a good point. I didn't think about it that way. Yeah. Because,
but at the same time, I wanted to hear that.
Yeah.
I want to hear a full. I want honest to God. Like, and we've talked about this in the lead up to the movie itself, as we're not sure this has ever happened before. A trailer for a movie comes out, it has such a negative reaction to an aspect of it that they are like pressured into changing that.
Yeah.
By the fans. And we say bullying, but like that's how we got our free COVID test mailed to us. Was by collectively saying, no, fuck you guys, but government is obviously not paramount. In any case, like, you know, like, has this ever happened before? I, honest to God, would love to have a, like, biography of how this movie got made. You were saying at the beginning how we made this, or whatever you said it was called. Yeah, how this made us.
Yeah, whatever.
How's it made? The toys that made us, but movies. You know, I want to see, because I want to have, you know, Jeff sit down in a chair and, you know, be like, we really thought this is what would have been the thing that sold, and I'm glad that it didn't, or whatever.
Yeah,
I want that.
Maybe we'll get that in like 20 years when we're fucking 45 or whatever.
Jim Carrey will be dead.
Jesus. But yeah, I guess it was more I wanted to hear it, and I think that's more of the shock. But yeah, I don't know. It's just it's interesting to just have not mentioned it. Like, but I thought at one point they were gonna, because Ben was like saying like, "Oh, the fans on Twitter," and I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
is this where he's gonna mention it?" And I was like, literally holding my breath, and he's like, "They make great."
I hate those fans.
Well, he's like, they make great, you know, what's art,
Just fan art.
fan art. That's the word I was looking for. And you know, like, I was like, yeah, this was the opportunity to say it. I'm like, if they're not gonna say it here, they're probably not gonna. And I thought maybe they were gonna say it in the beginning, and then they didn't. But I guess it's not really a disappointment, but more of just could have been interesting to hear their full like thoughts. But I think you're more right, where it's just like, we're trying to hype up this movie, and we're also making this for people who bought the Blu-ray or DVD or whatever the fuck, spent money on this probably twice, one for a movie ticket and one to buy it. So we want to give them something to like enjoy, to listen to, that isn't just like, yeah, our fucking animation team, I don't know what the fuck they were thinking.
Yeah. Well, I want to know, like, again, whose decision was it?
Was it Paramount? Was it his?
You know what I mean? Was it it wasn't Sega, was it? It couldn't have been Sega. You know, they wouldn't have wanted to look like that. But is there like the old, well, this won't sell if it looks too Japanese and cartoony? Motherfucker is a million game selling franchise. He refuses to die, and regardless of how bad his games are. You know what I mean?
The conversation,
we want to see the Sonic.
Just kind of had.
We want to see him.
There would have been multiple conversations, something, right? Like there just hadn't been.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll never know. Maybe we never know. We have to just keep guessing. But yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I enjoyed the commentary quite a bit. There was certain aspects that I wanted to like see more of, like, when it came to references for other things, like, you know, Jeff and Ben had said that they had both gotten the Sega Genesis mini consoles and had been playing Sonic 1 and 2, and, you know, when I hear them talking about this zone and that zone and blah, 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 it's always, like, the classic Sonic games, and it has me in the back of my mind thinking, well, we know Sonic 2 is probably still gonna cater to that idea because you're introducing Tails. The music was Emerald Hill Zone from Sonic 2, and Knuckles is an enemy, is a bad guy like he is in Sonic 3 in the beginning, you know, type of stuff. But, like, you know, I had told you off air that I learned, watched a video that explained the makings of Spider-Man 3.
Yeah.
And Sam Raimi wanted the villain to be Sandman, but he also liked Vulture. Those are classic Spider-Man villains that he grew up, or I don't know how old he is, you know, reading about. But, you know, Sony Pictures said Venom because he is the hotness right now. And Sam Raimi didn't understand Venom. And the Venom in that movie sucked because the director just genuinely didn't understand the appeal and why that character is interesting to people. And I almost in the back of my head think, if they ever actually do, like, Shadow the Hedgehog, or, you know, some of the like the early 2000s stuff, you know, Sonic Adventure and Heroes, and later even, like, will these same creative talent people doing the same reverence that they have clearly for the classics? But then I, you know, listen and hear that he did CGI stuff for Shadow the Hedgehog, so I'm like, all right, at least he's worked with the stuff. He's not completely unaware.
Yeah. I mean, he also has a relationship with Sega over the years, so it makes me think that, like, he generally cares to a certain extent about, you know, obviously he made a whole freaking movie for Sonic the Hedgehog that took 3 years to make, that I think he mentioned at one point, which is a long ass time.
And be able to say that is your first directed movie is also pretty damn showing of that.
Yeah.
I can see some people be like, I want my first movie that I ever direct to be this art house piece about the Renaissance and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. It's like, my first movie was Sonic.
Yeah.
Because I like him.
Yeah. So, yeah, I was hearing this and hearing that they were playing the games, because there's some actors who, you know, they're just there, like I said, there for the paycheck, or maybe they do care, you know, about the role, but, like, they don't do any research into it, you know what I mean?
Ben Affleck probably hates Batman.
Yeah, Ben Affleck probably doesn't. He read one comic and he's like, I can do this shit. You know what I mean?
It's for children.
Yeah.
Rips it
As
up.
he's smoking a cigarette.
Exactly, looking pissed.
Yeah. There's a reason why Ben Affleck has said recently he doesn't want to do Batman anymore. He's fucking sick of that shit.
Yeah. I don't blame him.
So, yeah. I don't know, but, like, it is good to hear, though. I think it gives me more confidence, too, going into the second movie again, and possibly for more. We'll see. I still think, I don't know. I still don't think there's, like, a planned, especially what we heard in this makes it think that, like, they're on a one movie-by-movie basis. Like, okay, this movie sold well.
Oh, yeah.
We'll do a sequel. Okay, if that sells well, maybe we'll do a third.
I have predictions about what the next movie after 2, assuming 2 doesn't have any crazy oddballs of, like, Metal Sonic is in it.
Metal Sonic
kills
what I mean? Eggman. Fucking
well, I do think, even though I don't think
Jim Carrey at the end,
even though I don't think it's gonna happen, it's set up in the trailer to kind of maybe make you think maybe they will kill James Marsden's Tom, because he is set up, you know, like, you have responsibility, and some people are going to get hurt if you don't take care of him. But I don't think it's going to happen.
Captured or something, and he'll be.
I think he would have to sacrifice himself for Sonic. But in any case, what I'm saying is that if there's, assuming that the movie is basically what it's set out to be in the trailers, Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, Eggman has a giant Eggman robot or whatever, right? That's it. Assuming that's what this movie is. The next movie I can see either be one of two different things. If they want to, if they're thinking this is now a franchise that will have many movies, we're going to ink our way along bit by bit. Next movie, Metal Sonic. If they're not thinking that, and they're thinking about, like, what would be dope as fuck for the next movie, Shadow the Hedgehog. I think that is the thing.
And the thing with franchises,
they're either going to kind of just ink along, or they're going to be like, let's get to the hits.
Or like with franchises now, you might have a TV show or something. Like, they might have a Shadow the Hedgehog TV show on the side that, like, not saying I want that, but like that is something that
I didn't like when Shadow got his own game.
Yeah, but I'm saying like that's not something that'd be totally out there that if it happened, you're not gonna be like, oh my god, be like, oh yeah, that's kind of the thing to do, for better or for worse.
I feel like you were starting to say something and I cut you off about it. I will. Okay, so maybe if you forget, I will say this too. One thing that I wanted to actually hear them talk about, what all they did was react to what was being said or what was being shown, is Tails. I wanted to hear, what does Tails mean by "I hope I'm not too late"? Is that like that is either a throwaway line that is just sequel tease because there is no idea yet, or he does have an idea of what would be next? Why would Tails? What was the process of getting Colleen to come and voice Tails?
Because they don't even mention that, like, oh, that's the original voice actor.
They don't. Obviously, you can see it in the credits that pop up and after that scene, but at the same time, they also didn't know if maybe there was something thrown at the very, very end too as a gag that could have happened, and they weren't aware of it. But yeah, no, I wanted to actually hear about that, especially now since it's, impertinent to what's... Did I make up a word there? Impertinent? That is not real.
I understood what you meant. So I guess it's a word now.
That's how language
works, right?
Impertinent and important.
It's a word now. It's a word to me. That's all that matters.
Considering the fact that Tails being in there is impertinent to the sequel that's around the corner. I'm owning it now. Tweet at me at Ethan Absolutely what you think that's spelled like.
I don't know.
I want to know. I mean, like, they even say the name Knuckles? They talked about the echidnas, but did they say Knuckles? I don't remember.
They said that, like, oh, we thought they'd be cool bad guys. Like, the echidna, like, everyone knows Knuckles. They mentioned Knuckles, but they didn't say, like,
okay,
we're planning to bring Knuckles in.
Because I got a sense from this that they didn't want to talk too much outside material that isn't what is in this movie, because they didn't want to give an impression of, yep, and we have a whole universe planned. Perhaps.
They can retcon shit later on, so it's like...
Sure.
Because it might be in the Sonic movie, too, that'd be like, maybe Sonic says something to Knuckles being like, your kind killed Owl Mom, I forgot her name.
Easy. Knuckles not even from that planet. They can just say something like that.
Or he'll be like, who?
Yeah.
He's like, I was a baby too. Then.
It was a joke that you did.
Was it? Oh, Thanos? God damn it. Yeah.
No.
Oh, because Thanos says, I don't even know who you are. Right?
What? You said as Sonic, your kind killed my owl lady mommy, and you as Knuckles said who?
Oh, wow.
That's what I will say. Never mind. Fuck. It's not even that funny. Yeah, they can easily do that. Is Tails from the same planet? Is Knuckles from the same planet? Are they from different ones? Etc. Etc. I mean, Angel Island is where Knuckles is from, right? So then is that the planet he's from? Is that an island on the Green Hill Zone planet?
Yeah.
Who knows? Will the movie open up with another Baby Sonic flashback? Kind of like, I think I said this joke before, like Wonder Woman 2 did.
Oh my God.
You know what I mean? Where it's like, here's another flashback of baby Diana, and she learns the same lesson from the first movie in a much worse movie. I like that first one. The second one was so much doesn't make sense in that movie. And a lot makes sense in the Sonic movie. One of my favorite parts in the whole movie is, and you know this, the convertible truck, aka when the top of the truck gets cut off. And that was real. They said that they sawed or did whatever they needed to do to top that truck off. And it's sitting in a lot somewhere. And part of me is like, who got to keep that?
I always wondered that because they were talking about
that's like a Jeep without the cage.
Because Ben Schwartz was like trying to get something from the set. He mentioned, and he's like, "Oh, you can't do that." So where does it go? Does the production company own it? I guess, right? Because they technically paid.
It is all property of the production company.
So
but
it might
usually,
be sitting
to
on
my
a
knowledge,
lot.
they throw it out.
It might be sitting in a lot, or it's been crushed by now.
Which sucks. You know what I mean? Fast and Furious. How many cars do they destroy? Give me one.
I don't even want it for collectors. It's like, I might roll with that. Like, just like if it's...
I thought it looked cool.
Like, it's going to be beat up a little bit. If it rains, it's going to suck. But like, I'll drop
just drive with
I'll drop
an umbrella.
3,000 on that. Like,
Sure.
if everything else runs good in that car, like the engine and all that shit, like I'll just put like a big tent over it.
No, didn't they? They probably had to destroy the dashboard, the radio, and all that for the harpoon. Obviously, they didn't fire a real harpoon.
If it just gives me to point A to point B, and like I only need to do an oil change
$2,000.
Yeah, I'll do $2,000.
Hey, it's got a truck bed though.
How many miles do you think that thing had?
I mean, they had to have gotten newish, but at the same time, like it's not like a Fast and Furious movie.
10,000-mile Toyota, whatever the fuck it was.
Either it was new-ish or it was very old, because at the same time, this isn't like a racing. This isn't a racing film.
Years.
Tom didn't need to have a brand new truck.
All
Tom
cops
lived
get
in Montana.
new shit.
Yeah,
that's what they get after they kill people. They get
that's true.
Prizes.
Yeah, I was, where I live, and I'm like right near a police station. I was driving home from work, and I'm like right around the corner. I'm at a light, it's red, and it goes green, and I go to pass it. The opposite direction, or like the cross direction, cop pulls up, tired of waiting, turns his lights on so that he can go. Totally happened, saw it in the rear view. I'm like, this dude was upset that he had to wait, so he turned his lights on and flashed so that he could just cross.
Yeah, I think in a high-speed chase from now on, I'm just gonna like purposely try to like block off the cop cars. If they hit me, I'll be like, "Bro, you fucking hit me."
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah, I won't pull over anymore. Sonic doesn't need to pull over. One of the things I wished they talked more about, like I
Police
said,
brutality.
that they. Yeah,
well,
they're not going to do that.
Yeah.
Like I said, a lot of reverence for the classics, if not mostly just the first Sonic game, because it's all about Sonic, and so is this movie. There's definitely parts in the movie where you could conceive what you're seeing as stemming from one of the games, like Sonic running along or running on the Wall of China, the Great Wall of China. Well, that's what Sonic Unleashed one of the levels in Sonic Unleashed was. But like they didn't mention that. Is that actually the case? Running to the pyramids?
Was it a coincidence that they just like thought it would be cool?
Like they didn't say, "Oh yeah, Sonic's been globetrotting around in some of his games."
Yeah,
and we wanted
this
to bring some
references Death
locations,
Chamber
but...
with the pyramids. Like, nope.
Yeah,
that doesn't. It's just hey, we thought the pyramids would be far away from Los Angeles or whatever, San Francisco. So like, which is fair. I'm like, that's a pretty far distance. It's far enough to be like, wow, Sonic traveled far. Because if they did like L.A., to be like, okay, they went like 100 miles. Like he just thought of
L.A. and San Francisco is like 4 hours.
Yeah, but like you know what I mean.
hours,
Like
but...
same state. Like come on, Sonic.
And if you hop from city to city, our kids kind of really understand that those are completely different places. Like when they went to Paris, they showed the Eiffel Tower, showed a little girl in front of a mime to really bring home this is France. You know what I mean? So yeah, maybe you're right. Anything? I mean, I kind of took the reins away from you. So
wow.
you tell me what you want. Sorry.
I'm just looking through my list here. I found it like this isn't really Sonic really, but like the process of doing a previs, which is like a 3D rendering of a room. I thought that was interesting to hear about. Like, oh, I never knew that like that was a thing that they make their lives easier when it comes to like, hey, how are we going to fit Sonic in a room where we're filming and we won't know how big he is or how fast he's going and whatnot.
I think it's almost like, if you're an auteur and you're I have this entire scene mapped out in my brain. I now need to convey that to other people. Will my crane operator understand what I mean? Will these people understand what I mean by, and then from here and then over to there? So I think that's definitely a tool just to make sure everyone's on the same page of like what the scene looks like in terms of like, I'm sure they have virtual cameras in there that they swing around to simulate of like, all right, you're going to be here and you're going to move over to there. Like it's almost like storyboarding, but for the actual shooting as opposed to what is being shot.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, which is smart. And especially when they get to like action scenes, they're going to definitely need to be like, all right. And so if this is what we want to do, how do we do this type of stuff? As opposed to like just running and gunning with your camera.
Yeah. I wrote another note down, which I don't know why, because I don't remember what they said, but I wrote, Rock played Sonic in college.
Yeah, All that was that there was a improvised line where Ben Schwartz as Sonic waking up says, "Is The Rock president?" And that was in a trailer, and he said that The Rock watched it, and The Rock tweeted that he played Sonic the Hedgehog in college.
Which makes me think, this goes back to our episode from the other week.
Jeff said he'd vote for The Rock, by the way.
Yeah, we said the other week, like, oh, because The Rock tweeted, like, oh, I'm going to be in a movie a video game movie.
Oh, right.
I'm going to be in a movie about a game that I played a lot when I was younger. And I'm like, they just said The Rock played Sonic in college. We talked about it, like, we probably don't think he's going to be in Sonic 2.
Because who would he be?
But just a little maybe fate of the universe kind of shit coming in here. Maybe.
Okay, I have an idea.
Okay.
So Knuckles is played by Idris Elba.
Yeah.
And Knuckles presumably is protecting, like, he's tricked by Eggman or Dr. Robotnik or whatever you want to call him, because he's trying to protect the Master Emerald, or maybe it's a Chaos Emerald in this movie. Who knows? Knuckles isn't like an orphan that's alone. He doesn't have a family in the games or anything like that, but he's from a people, it seems. The Rock is like the sage, the mentor, the whoever.
Okay.
Easy.
Yeah.
Because, like, if it's a Sonic character, who would he be? That would make sense. You know what I mean? Like, but then, like I said, you're going too far into the 1999 and the 2000s, where it's like, all right, that's a different story than the classic Sonic stuff. What is he, Amy?
Yeah.
Amy Rose? You know what I mean? So
what if he, like,
he would either be an original
what if it's
character?
like Fast and Furious and he's like military?
Oh, he's just a man?
Like,
that would be so fucking lame.
Yeah. But we would love it though. What if it's the same character from Fast and Furious and they just tie it into here, and he's like
Hobbs.
Yeah, he's Hobbs, and he comes in and he's like, I heard there's a crazy
Heard
scientist.
someone was going too fast.
Heard someone going too fast, and I hear there's a crazy scientist back from some mushroom planet. I got business to take care of. And he says goodbye to his kids, and as he walks out the door with a fucking a belt of grenades and a RPG strapped to his back. But I don't know. I just thought it was funny that we were just talking about it and they mentioned it. I'm like, I swear to God, if he's in Sonic 2 and there's some weird, like, Matrix simulation shit happening in my life again, I'm gonna unplug. I'm gonna unplug.
Yeah. It's possible. What if it's like Sonic 3 though? What if they're already planning for Sonic 3? You know what I mean? Who knows?
I still don't think so, but there's a chance.
Because you said you think that they're focusing on this one movie at a time, and I think that they, or maybe Sega perhaps, or Paramount is thinking this more of like a successful franchise. Because we did our predictions on what the movie would do. I thought like just a tiny bit better, and you think because of COVID and stuff, it's not going to do as much. I believe it. Maybe I'm wrong.
It was it wasn't far off, but it was like it wasn't.
I'm a little over. You're a little under.
Yeah, but
perhaps they're already planning ahead, because you know what? It's Sonic the Hedgehog as we know and love him. No matter how many times he fucking fails,
they made 6 Resident
still
Evil
keeps
movies.
going.
They made 6 Resident Evil movies and decided to reboot it.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think you're probably right, though.
Maybe we'll see. I mean, who knows? It could be like another thing, but like based off what they said, where like Tails was always supposed to be at the end, just as more of a like fun thing that, hey, if we make more, this is where it's going to stem from. That they could do that again, and if we don't, if it sucks, then we don't get it. But
yeah,
I mean, we've had movies like Amazing Spider-Man 2, where they're like, "Yep, Sinister Six is going to be in it." And then, like, they just, like, don't give a fuck, and they're canceling it and moving on.
Yeah.
So, like, there's less risk anymore. I think people, like, or I think franchises have shown that, like, they can reboot a ton of times, and they're still going to make money. How many Terminator reboots has there been? There's going to be another Predator thing coming out soon, and even though, like, the last couple of it made money, you know what I mean? So, like, it's less risk anymore, but, and going back to Resident Evil, like, those didn't make a ton of money, but they made enough money over and over again that they just kept making them.
Yeah.
I just think our expectation, not us specifically, but I think generally speaking, I feel like if you're not getting $1 billion in the box office, like all these Marvel movies, that it's a failure. You know what I mean? It's like, no, those are outliers. Like those are cash cows at this point. Like,
Yeah.
making $300 million in the box office is pretty damn good.
Yep.
Especially in a COVID world.
Yeah.
$300 million is a lot of money.
Yeah. Anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think I'm good. I mean, believe my knuckles attack me for my finance. I'm dealing with this pain. I just can't let you throw it away. A.
Huh?
Those are lyrics from Speed Me Up.
Oh.
Wiz Khalifa says that. Which, by the way, is connected to Fast and Furious. See, all our shit connects to
It's almost like popular media is mainstream, and they're all
no, it
the
means
same.
we're the Matrix, dude. I'm telling you.
Okay, yeah.
I have a lot lately. Ever since I watched Matrix Revolutions or whatever, Resurrections. I'm just saying, I've been noticing a lot of things where I'm like, that's too much of a coincidence, and that makes me think that we actually live in Sonic world. Sonic is real.
Goodbye,
We
everyone.
have to wake up. We have to wake up.
Next week is Uncharted. See ya.